myself out.
I am afraid of.
I'm terrified and paralyzed by.
I am deathly afraid of.
Welcome to the Sum of All Fears podcast with your host, me, Ryan Perio. Hello and welcome to the Sum of All Fears podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Perio. This week, the week of my comedy recording, I am releasing my episode with social media influencer friend and brand ambassador Emily C. White. Emily is a good friend of mine. We met at a comedy show where she came to karaoke at a karaoke bar right next door. She's a fun person. She's a free spirit, fun energy. So when I met her, I thought maybe at the future sometime she would be a guest on my podcast. And so over the holidays, I recorded an episode with her and I'm releasing it now. And in this episode, we talk about social media influencing and how it's been therapeutic for her. We talk about dating, which is kind of a lot of her Instagram stories deal with her dating life. So we talk about dating. And then we get into her fear of losing her independence and having to depend on someone that maybe she doesn't have the best relationship with. And it's a really good, fun conversation. So let's get into that interview right now with Emily C. White. And my guest is social media influencer and brand ambassador for various beverages and items, Emily White. Emily.
Hello.
How are you?
Great. It's actually, not to overcorrect you, but it's Emily C. White.
Emily C. White. That's
yeah,
where you can.
I like to be a little different because I've actually met another Emily White before.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy. So it's kind of like John C. Reilly, Sterling K. Brown, you know, like the little middle name initial actually makes a difference.
Okay. So Emily C. White, I believe that's your Instagram, actually.
Yeah.
So you've done brand ambassadoring and influencing. So how did you kind of, I guess, come to social media influencing? Like, how did you, I guess, discover that was what you wanted to, I guess, pursue?
Quarantine. No, I'm kidding. I mean, kind of. So I have a degree in musical theater. So performance, entertainment. I've always been an entertainer by nature.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I did try the whole acting thing, and you're at the mercy of a writer. You're at the mercy of a director. You're at the mercy of an audition. So with quarantine, back in 2020, we all remember about those great times, right? You know, we were stuck to our phones, and, you know, people were desperate to consume some sort of kind of entertainment. And it was actually someone that I was kind of talking to at the time. He was like, you know, this is a fresh restart for everyone. Everyone's starting with a clean slate. This is your time to integrate and do something new, fresh, and unique. And so I just started doing little skits here and there. And then slowly but surely trying to find my niche, because that's the whole thing with influencing, is just kind of trying to find what little niche or what kind of like hole you can peg yourself into so that people can be drawn into that. And I feel like the one that I've kind of drawn myself into is my dating life. Or my love life, or lack thereof, is the one that I like to call it.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people seem to be resonating with that. They love the updates. They love to know what's happening. They kind of even ask me, they're like, so what happened with so-and-so? And I'm like, who? So that's kind of how that fell into place.
Well, that's interesting. So dating and relationships is kind of, I guess, your niche.
I mean, and also just kind of Dallas. So my tagline is Dallas blogger.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I need something a little more broad, because I don't want to I mean, I live here in Dallas, but I
Mhm.
feel as if I need to expand it so that I'm not boxed into a certain, I don't know. I'm still figuring my way through it. Let's just call myself a content creator.
Okay. Well, that's awesome. It's easy. It's definitely something that takes a lot of courage because you're kind of opening kind of opening up things that most people would keep private,
Mhm.
but not to like full on. Like it's not every detail, but you are giving pretty much like the lowdown of this is what this guy is saying to me. You blur
Mhm.
out certain passages, but here's
Yeah.
the gist of our conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. I know that I mean, you're a comedian, right? And
Yes.
so you understand that you have to draw from your own personal experiences to deliver the
Hmm.
best kind of jokes or the best kind of, content, whatever. But you also know that you need to draw the line from
Yes.
time to time. And so that's the same thing. Whenever I tell a guy that I'm about to go on a date with, I flat out tell them, dating me is like dating a comedian. Your daily life will somehow end up in my sketches or whatever, my skits. However, I respect privacy. I understand that there's some guys that don't like to be fully out there. There's some that don't care. There's actually the ones that fully support it, and those are hidden gems because they're like, who am I to be judging what you do? I mean, there's people literally out there on OnlyFans. Like,
Hmm.
I mean, if they're making a killing out of it, who am I to tell you to stop? So those are the ones that I appreciate. But I'll blur out faces. I'll blur out like names, and I'll keep it in my close friend story.
That's that's fantastic, and it's really cool that a lot of them are conducive to that. I mean, it's kind of become a social media world, and so I
Mm,
feel like more and more that's going to happen is that more people are going to kind of, say, here by dating me, there is going to be some level of publicity to what
mhm.
our relationship, and it may just be romantic gestures or things that inadvertently you awkwardly said that awkward moments and things like that will become part of the, I guess, public like knowledge to me and the people that watch my stories.
Mhm.
And most guys have been comfortable with that, like they're okay, like yeah. Or has there been some guys that are like,
Flat out no.
yeah,
So I actually had one dude, and I'm pretty well, not on this current dating profile, but in my last dating profile over the summer, because I have to take breaks. Oh my
mhm,
god. So over the summer, I was very clear. I put it in like one of the descriptions. I said, let's be upfront about this. I consider myself a public figure, and you have to be okay with public.
mhm,
I don't remember the wording exactly. So the dude called me because I gave him my number, and that's another the whole fake number, real number thing. That's another not fun topic that I've encountered with the dating world. But anyway, I gave this dude a number of mine, and he called. We talked for about a good 2 hours. I kid you not. And we agreed that we were going to meet up. We even live here in the same neighborhood, very convenient. And we seem to have hit it off on the phone. And then he ghosted me for about 2 days. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, what happened? And he messaged me the day that we were supposed to meet. And he goes, so I've been thinking about it. And like, I looked at your social media. It's super fun and everything. But I decided that it's not for me. So good luck. Have a good life. So it has happened that I've literally been stood up before the date even happens because the
mhm,
guys just kind of just freak out at the idea. And here's the kicker. The dude is in a band. And
mhm,
we were talking about how he needs to how they're trying to grow and like how they need to tap into the whole social media stuff. And I'm like, I can totally help you with that.
mhm.
Let me like try to boost you, like let me handle your social media or whatever. So good luck, sir, on trying to,
Yeah.
pick up your band or whatever. Like social media is the way of the world now. It's a necessary evil.
Mhm.
You know, even presidents, I mean, the freaking POTUS has a Twitter account. Let's not talk about Trump, but I'm just saying in general,
Yeah.
that's a way for people to communicate to the public now.
Yeah.
And there are those people that just are diehard, like, no, I refuse to have a Facebook. I refuse
Mhm.
to have this. I refuse to have that. But I think there will be a point in time, even LinkedIn. Come on, like even for work, you even have to have a LinkedIn. So good luck trying to stay anonymous.
Yeah. It's definitely an interesting thing because it's starting, the lines blur, with everybody differently. And so some people are very open on social media. Some comedians just strictly use it to, to produce, just to show dates and
Mhm.
other things that they do comedy wise, but they keep their personal lives. Other people, are just like, here I am, and here's my life and times. And it's just, you have to balance that, I would say, with your own, I guess, mental health capacity is what I would call it, just to make sure that you are cultivating life outside of it as well too, that you're not
Absolutely.
just completely like, there's an intimate moment or something and hold on, I've got to post something, that's
Absolutely. No, which you kind of segued into what I wanted to talk next, which is about how I have found that Instagram has been relatively therapeutic for me.
Mhm.
Which kind of talks it goes into this whole fears thing. I don't know if you have a a set way that you do your podcast, but that was a perfect segue into talking about the fears and all that good stuff for me. So I have found, because quarantine, right? So with quarantine, I live alone. Don't murder me, people. Don't come looking for me. Don't murder me, please. But I do live alone. And because, there was no way to get out or whatever, I used Instagram as a way to express how I was feeling, the frustrations, and also like that, the joys of also just, being confined or whatever. But also, I have also found it therapeutic because I get to express myself, because when I was younger, I was told to keep quiet. I was told that I wasn't able to say much. I had to keep a lot of things guarded in secret. And now that I'm an adult and now that I have control over my life, and I don't have any parental units or family members telling me to keep quiet,
Mhm.
now this is my way therapeutically to heal myself and be able to, and thank goodness I live in a country where I can do that, because there's
Mhm.
China, for crying out loud, you talk and you disappear literally. And thank goodness also that we're in a time and age where, as a woman, I can also speak freely.
Mhm.
And I think that's also what some of my followers have found refreshing, that I'm giving a woman's point of view of the dating struggles of what's happening out there.
Yeah, and it's good on you for using that to build, I guess, that confidence to be able to feel comfortable in that space, because
Mhm.
I'm sure there's many women that would, that because of, just upbringing and parenting, and it's hard. It's hard to want people to succeed while also wanting them to also conform and fit in. And so there's always that, I guess, that struggle of trying to find the balance of, you can do anything, but hey, don't do this. This looks bad. And there's always going to be that, I guess, perception versus, I guess, reality kind of struggle.
I want to call myself a mixture of Amy Schumer and I can't really put my foot on my finger on the next person, but like I definitely really identify with how I really have to thank Amy Schumer, really, because she really opened up the doors on women. Just and for her, if you look back at her stand-ups now,
Mm-hmm.
not really that vulgar, but back then they would call her vulgar, but it was because it was unseen.
Mhm.
It was a woman talking about her experiences and just, look at me, I'm chunky, or like, look at me, this is how I'm living
Mhm.
my life, and like the struggles of it.
Yeah.
And so I really do gotta thank Amy Schumer for that.
Mhm. I like to call it emotional honesty, and just basically saying, this is the reality. This is not me being nice or saying the polite things. This is the emotional honesty of being a woman in New York in a male-dominated society.
Field. Yeah.
And because I'm a big fan of Elaine Boosler, who in the late 70s, early 80s kind of came up with the Jerry Seinfelds and not Larry Davids, but the David Lettermans and Jay Leno's and stuff that were kind of pioneering the stand-up world you see today in the late 70s. And in Elaine Boosler, there's a passage in a book called I'm Dying Up Here, where they talk about like the lady that owns a Laugh Factory is Pauly Shore's mom. Her husband was a comic, and he left her to kind of run this comedy club while he toured. And gosh. And so it became an empire, and she basically divorced and became her own business owner and everything else. But to try to, I guess, to help, in her way, to try to help female comics get a leg up, she designed a room called the Belly Room, which was supposed to be highlighting only female performers.
Awesome. And
Elaine Boosler was against it because she's like, I want to play against the boys. If you make it our own place, then we'll never have the credibility of a man, because they have the boys' room where everybody goes, and this is the girls' room. And so it kind of, she wanted it she wanted to still be integrated in the male dominated and still beat them at their own game rather than to. Yes. And so that's why I'm always interested in see how, I guess, women perceive that, because I think there are things that we can do better in comedy, but there are things like we can't, as much as we want it to be. Mm-hmm. I would say not just an equal opportunity for everybody, is we don't want to also then, I would want to say water down, but I don't know, but kind of water that down by just catering to that. Instead, have them be just as talented as the male counterparts are, and to outshine them versus to.
No, I love it.
And so that's always been my philosophy on it, is I want everybody to have their moment, but I don't want them to feel like they have to be handed that moment. I want them to take it and run with it and show that they're better, and not just be in a show just because, an all-woman show just because they're a female comic. I want a female comic to be on the same bill as a male comic, or African-American comic, or gay lesbian comic. Doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. And I want them to all shine equally as bright as, the straight white male dominated comic.
Yeah, exactly. It just even the playing field.
Yes.
Allow us the opportunity to come up into the playing field, because everybody wants to have everybody's different, and we all have unique experiences, and just seeing that one perspective is not going to be funny to a certain kind of person, because we've never lived that kind of experience before. Mm-hmm. So I totally agree with you. Opening up the playing field and just being able to see everybody else's experiences.
So in this dating, have you ever, I guess, run into the situation of somebody, I won't say stalking, but maybe basically becoming like too much of a fan, like kind of crossing the line of that comfort area of stuff to
a little bit. I mean, it starts in the DMs. Mm-hmm. I recently just had a video go viral. It's probably sitting at 2.6 million views now, which is incredible.
Yeah.
But in the video, I'm giving my number to a boy, to a guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had these random dudes hitting me up in the DMs, sliding in the DMs, being like, "Oh, I see you giving your number, so can you take mine?" Or like, but also playing towards the theme of the video. So the theme of the video is that I gave my number to a dude that's dressed up as an elf,
Mm-hmm.
and he's working at a Christmas themed like museum or whatever. And so I've been having creepos being like, "Oh, maybe I can jingle down your bells or whatever."
Yeah.
So it starts there, and I try not to entertain those because clearly it's a waste of time.
Yeah.
But I have had, it's interesting. I'm gonna knock on wood and say I haven't had any stalkers yet. Knock on that wood.
Yes.
However, I have had people just get really like invested in my life
Mhm.
and then start kind of demanding a little bit too much from me. And so I strategically, because I can't just block these people, right? Because they'll find a way to contact me. I strategically have had to, at least with one dude, I had to like slowly stop replying so that, because the algorithm on Instagram at least is that if you DM someone, their stories will pop up on your feed first. And that's how the algorithm is shown. So I knew this going in. So I had to strategically stop looking or replying to his DMs so that I would slowly start fading away from the top of his like browser. And then once I noticed that I wasn't getting as many DMs from him, I started blocking his different pages because he had followed me from 3 different pages. And so I had to individually go in and block him on all the ones that I know of.
Yeah.
So I have, but like I said, it wasn't a stalking thing. And I did have to contact because I saw that he was also following, and I had to like be strategic. I saw who else he was following that I knew that I'm friends with. And I contacted them and I was like, "How do you know this person? Like, did they talk to you as much as this dude does to me?" And no, he wasn't talking to her as much as he was to me. So I said, "Hey, listen, like I'm gonna block this dude. So like hopefully he doesn't like hit you up or whatever." So yeah, so it can get a little creepy. It can get a little creepy.
And unfortunately with the online that happens because I feel like a lot of people lack the confidence to like approach or tactfully, be.
That's one.
Yeah, because I as an awkward person, I've been there. I've been there where I assume I mistake kindness for attraction, and so I've been in that realm of it's somewhat innocent, but it's also invasive. It's not
I see.
not threatening, but it's uncomfortable. It's one of those things where you're not, I'm not getting the hint because you're trying to nicely say you're not interested,
back off.
and all I can hear is the niceness, and so I've
run with it.
As someone that's made that mistake over and over, I kind of sympathize, but I also understand that you also have the opportunity to better yourself. It's not beholden on every female or male or anyone you talk to make you a better person. You have to also put in the work to say, okay, this is the third woman that's kind of like, uncomfortably ended our conversations.
I'm noticing a pattern.
Yeah, you have, and then you just kind of, do the work. Maybe I'm giving too much information about my life. Sometimes when you talk to people and you tell them about how single you are and how you would love to be, a serious relationship, you may be talking to another person that's not in that space and is just looking to date and have fun, and you're basically starting to put parameters on your dating that suggest that this is going to be, I'm going to make this serious or it's going to be nothing. And so they're going to choose nothing because being in a serious relationship isn't for them. And it's one of those things where a lot of people too, I feel, make the mistake of I want this out of a relationship. And I feel like you should have some prerequisites of what kind of relationship you want, but also keep them loose. You don't know if you're going to evolve into a serious relationship. It could be instead just go for the fun and, the opportunity to, a new acquaintance and maybe a new restaurant, maybe a new venue, something you never experienced, instead of, okay, well, I'm going to take her on a date. And so, it's just one of those things where people, I feel, sometimes put too many rules on the game, then nobody wants to play. If you put it's like playing, house or whatever, where you have to be this person. I don't want to be this person. No, that's how the game's played. You have to be this person. Well, then I'm not going to play with you. And so I feel like it's one of those things where I hope people, take that time to kind of accept maybe, that they made a mistake. Because I feel like so many people don't want to feel like they are made a mistake, that they end up, getting resentful or hateful to people when they don't have to be.
Yeah. And my other theory is because you're letting people into your life, they automatically think that you're kind of like best friends with them.
Yeah.
And that's happened, I know, to one blogger friend of mine. Her name is Courtney. And she said that she ran into a fan or someone that follows her and just like, and just started talking about like things. And she was like, I don't know you. And it made her uncomfortable because she does share a lot about herself, but it's kind of very one-sided. And so there's a relationship happening, but you're not really involved in that relationship. And so people start formulating ideas in their own heads about you. And that's where it can get a little creepy, because you're letting in someone, but you're letting them so far. So I don't know. There is a fine line, and especially with some dudes, it can be a little tricky.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I try to play it's everybody, it's an innocent mistake until you make it, you start to, I would say, get more defensive and less innocent about it. I mean, it's okay. It's just, I don't see where people get so bent out of shape, or, if somebody says, I'm not interested, like even in online dating, like I had a friend, she would show me the messages she would get online dating, and I was just shocked at how like almost bipolar, like it would be, you're so beautiful, and then she would like, I'm not interested. Fuck you, fatty. It's like, and I'm like, you don't know how, it's not their fault.
Yep.
That they're not interested in you. There's some chemistry there. It's not that they're not like a prom queen dismissing you. They don't have ill will, and I don't understand. I just don't understand the embarrassment fee. I know there's a little bit of awkwardness, but it shouldn't feel like humiliation or something to that effect.
Yeah.
That you have to basically, okay, well, that's how it's going to be. Let me just burn, let me just light this fire and burn this bridge. And I was like, what happened to just normal conversation? Like, I know, right. And am I the best at it? Absolutely not. There are tons of women that will tell you I'm super awkward, but I also, thanks to stand up, I've also kind of owned the fact that I am. And it's like, you kind of, one thing that I've learned from comedy is just to make peace with my flaws and be like, okay, instead of beating myself up with them and saying, and I feel like so many people do beat themselves up for, ruining that opportunity. Absolutely. And it's like, it's just the best way I would say dating has been described to me is, it's not, everybody wants to say, it's like this bolt of lightning, attraction. And I'm like, it's not really a bolt of lightning. It's more like the rain. You just have, it's not one definitive strike that immediately. There's just pitter patter of opportunity
Mhm.
that just come around every so often. It's not every day. It's also not forever. There's just every once
Mhm.
in a while you'll have a little rain shower of opportunity. I guess this kind of does segue into your fear because it's a very interesting fear, but it's something that I feel like everyone, I guess, even as you get older, I feel like it becomes a bigger fear than it does now. But go ahead and tell people what you're afraid of.
I am afraid of losing my independence. And the way that I want to describe that is, and not to get too traumatic.
Mhm.
So I don't want to lose my independence because, growing up as a child, clearly you need to depend on someone, right?
Mhm.
But what if the people that are meant to take care of you and the people that you're supposed to trust are abusive to you?
Yeah.
So you basically live in fear of, or you learn how to live with that abuse and
Mhm.
just kind of be gaslit into thinking that it's normal.
Yeah.
So after many years of therapy, of course, I have now come to terms with walking away from all of my family.
Okay.
And like, for example, this Thanksgiving, Christmas, all that good stuff, New Year's, I did not go anywhere. I stayed right here on my
Mhm.
couch where I'm safe and sound.
Okay.
And it was amazing being able to just be alone, not have to deal with any kind of like,
Mhm.
Trauma or whatever.
So and so's coming to dinner, so none of that.
Yeah, put up a front, put up the smile, and pretend that everything's good. But that's what I've been doing for so many years. And the same thing with the whole staying quiet and why I feel like talking on Instagram is therapeutic because all these years I've had to be quiet about the abuse. So the reason why I'm scared of losing my independence is because I don't want to have to go back to being reliant or dependent on someone that has abused me before.
Mhm.
So of course, like my mom, it wasn't physical abuse or sexual abuse. It was more of mental
Mhm.
abuse and holding me hostage in a situation that I was not comfortable being in.
Mhm.
And I can elaborate on all that stuff, but I don't know how deep we want to get into that. But so like with my mom, of course, I have a little bit of a talking relationship with her. And, I know that she would take care of me if something happens to me. But if I were to get into a car accident and lose an arm or a leg
Mhm.
or become blind or, something where I'm physically debilitated, I know for sure that my mother would take care of me, but I don't want that to happen because I don't want to be reliant on someone that
Mhm.
has mentally abused me before.
Yeah.
Same with financial. I want to be financially independent from everybody because part of the trauma, one part of the trauma was that they would hold finances over me, saying that I would not be able to be independent or be able to live on my own based on money because I
Mhm.
wouldn't be able to make enough. And so they would hold me, like saying like they would give me money so that I wouldn't leave. So yeah, so if I were to be physically debilitated, if I were to be financially crippled, or any kind of way that would impact or I lose my apartment, I get evicted, whatever the case may be, when it comes to I can't drive, or I lose my driver's license or something like that.
Mhm.
Losing my independence means that I would have to go back into a world or an environment where
Mhm.
I would not be in control anymore.
Okay.
And that is so scary to me because I don't
Yeah.
want that to happen.
It would be. It's scary even without the, I guess, the backstory and everything else involved. I mean, at some point, your spouse, parent, child, or whatever, you eventually you eventually lose that. It's just parent. Your mom's not going to be around forever.
Right.
You could marry a spouse, but you never no guarantees that they'll be there forever.
Well, and so then I don't want to have kids. That's another reason why I'm single, is because I do not want children. So therein lies another kind of aspect of losing my independence, because I know at 80, 70, 80,
Mm-hmm.
Things will start crippling down. And where am I going to go? Am I going to go into an old people's home, or am I going to go? The nice way would be to go into a family house, but I don't have children that are going to be taking care of me.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not an option. I've heard horror stories of people going into older care, and they just basically get abused there. They just neglection or be neglected. So again, that's another form of fear of mine whenever I get older. So I kind of have this thing where I'm good if I die at like 70, 75.
Okay.
Like, I think I lived a pretty decent life. I mean, Betty White had, carpet my DM. That's correct. Yeah, I lived a good life. After that, like, your retirement starts to run low, and you don't want to have to be dependent on that. Social Security. Let's talk about that. We're not really going to be ripping those benefits anytime soon, so we probably won't be having that. That's another fear. So, like, yeah, it's just be like the fear of the unknown in the future,
Mm-hmm.
and the current fear now of losing my independence. That freaky deaky.
So have you talked to your mom about that? Is that just something that road just won't be repaired to the point that
she's actually talked to me about it more than I've talked to her about it, because currently she's taking care of her mother.
Mm-hmm.
And she's starting to freak out about like what's going to happen to me when this happens, because my abuela is starting to have dementia.
Mm-hmm.
And so my mother is kind of freaking out about like, well, what if this happens to me? Like, are you going to take care of me? And I'm like, does it look like I want to take care of you after everything that you've done for me? And so she feels like me not really talking to her right now is like a phase. I'm like, this isn't a phase. This is the consequences of your actions. Like, I'm establishing my boundaries.
I understood.
So I don't know. Right now it's a sensitive.
Yeah, I just didn't know if there were steps that she could take to kind of prove to you that she.
There's one major one, and that's for her to divorce the man that she's married to right now.
Okay.
If she were to divorce him, I feel like that would be a good step in the right direction.
Okay. Fair enough. I was just wondering if it was just sealed off, or this is as far as we're ever going to. This is as close as we're ever going to be anymore. But just kind of, I guess, in my own mind, okay. So that you're saying there's a chance. Like that.
I was saying yes. I am saying that there is a chance. I have not closed the door. I did block her for a while, but slowly but surely I started on blocking her. I get her annoying emails, just like updates, stuff like that. Wow, I really my allergy pill just really just dead. I can't breathe through my nose anymore. But yeah, no. I mean, she's my mother at the end of the day, and I'm not one of those evil people that is going to shut out a person. Like I have told her I have forgiven her for what she has done.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm starting to lose my train of thought. I have forgiven her for what she has done, and she did the best that she could under the circumstances that she was given.
Mm-hmm.
She was able to do the best to her abilities. Yeah. Now, could she have done better? Oh, hell yeah, she could have done better. But now that she's going to therapy, I'm going to therapy. We're learning. I know that I'm going to have to be the one that breaks the generational cycles.
Mm-hmm.
But in order to do that, there needs to be consequences to the actions that were done. Okay. And that's all. Just kind of just establishing the boundaries so that she knows that she knows how to respect me now as an adult.
Yeah. So it's like you can go this far, but you can't go further. There's no. And that's healthy. I mean, it's healthy to just do that, and to and to still have that line of communication. And I know some people,
Mhm.
with parents and stuff, sometimes just have, they're not even on speaking terms. And that's,
Right. Yeah. Of course, I considered emancipating myself.
Yeah.
Of course, I was like, I will divorce myself from this whole family. But, at the heat of the moment, of course.
Yeah.
But I have come to terms. And also, that's a lot of therapy, too. My
Yeah.
therapist is like, how can we have a relationship with your mother?
Yeah.
How can we do this?
but at the same time, I mean, it's definitely something you have given a lot of thought, because you have to,
Mhm.
at the end of the day, it's still your decision at the end of the day. If your mom refuses to respect the boundaries you put up, I mean, she's backing you into a decision that you have to make.
Mhm.
And
It's protecting myself.
yeah,
Because again, she wasn't able to protect me as a child. So I have to protect myself now as an adult. That kind of situation.
so have you considered monetizing your Instagram, or is that a work in progress as far as for the financial, I guess, fear that of financial independence? Have you tried to then say, okay, well, if that's the case, let me try to monetize, more aspects of my life to give me more financial independence, and to maybe sock away, a little bit of money here and there for emergencies?
Absolutely. I was wondering where you were going with that segue. I was like, what? That was such a quick jump into something completely different. No, I'm glad that you explained yourself. Of course. Of course. I've thought that's the next step. I mean, I'm also struggling with that whole imposter syndrome of
Mhm.
well, this person did this, so I can't do that. But at the same time, the whole beauty of TikTok and Reels is imitating what someone else has done, but do
Yeah.
it a little differently or better.
Yeah.
And so I need to be okay with it's okay to be a part of a trend. It's okay to participate in these things, but also keep in mind my original content, but not be overwhelming with ads or overwhelming with sponsored posts and that stuff, because that annoys me.
Yeah.
And you can see through that. But I was actually talking to someone today. We went to the same school together and we haven't talked in years. And she started talking to me because she was really resonating with the things that I've been posting recently.
Mhm.
And she was telling me, of course, the next step, because she's in sales. And so we were talking about that. And she said, coming from someone that's in sales, I feel like whenever you do a sponsored post, you do it so organically and so fluidly
Mhm.
that I don't mind seeing them, because you somehow make it a part of your brand, and it makes me interested in the product or the place that you're visiting. And so that was just so reassuring that it seems as whatever I'm doing is working, and I need to be more proactive about doing that. Currently, I'm on I get a free product, I'll post about you kind of thing, like gifted. That's what they call gifted. But of course, the next step is to start making money off of the posts. This is a moment of celebration. I finally made $250 off a video. So that was super exciting. I know it's not a lot, but
For one video,
it's
I mean, you put
for one video.
yeah, but I mean, you also put in the work for it to make that video quality versus just starting
Uh-huh.
out. Like there's a lot of trial and error with some of this stuff. So
Yeah. And so out of the 250, the $50 that I made, I paid a friend of mine to help me with it. So I really profited 200 because my friend came up with the concept and she filmed it for me. Um, and then everything else I did the editing. Of course, I did the acting, all that good stuff. But so, I also help the people that help me.
well, good on you for doing that, because some people,
Yeah.
as you've probably experienced in your dating, don't do that. They just kind of just take, and
Yep. No. She's been good to me. She's been very supportive. And so we were both there for the same promotion. And I think, we were both there, and she was the one that came up with the idea, but it wouldn't fit for her brand.
Mhm.
And she was like, it would be really funny if someone did this and this and this. And I said, I can do it. And she was like, oh, let me film you. And then that's how it ended up. So first, there's always a first,
Mhm.
and that's my first. And it was for a Brazilian wax
Yeah.
campaign. It was for a Brazilian wax campaign, which totally fits my brand.
But you could totally do a dating podcast. Like you could totally take this and, just, riff on a subject for, 15 to 20 minutes about, so either your last date with whoever and just go through the, you could Instagram story it, but then, for the nitty gritty details, like you could have a broad overview of your date. But if you want to know the down and dirty, subscribe to my podcast, and just see where it goes, and just see, you just record yourself and put it up and just see how people, and, it's probably even more therapeutic that you could actually go through the, 30 minutes of details instead of trying to condense it down to a minute and then another minute.
Oh, I know. Gosh, I have to re-record myself. That's actually a secret that I never tell people, is how many times I re-record 1 minute worth of a story.
Yeah.
Because as you can see, I kind of struggle with my words. I'm bilingual. So it's not that I think in English first, but sometimes words in Spanish come quicker. And I don't know what it is, but I just stumble on my words a lot. It also doesn't help that I have braces. So to film a big old story in 1 minute takes me at least, I want to say, and I'm not lying, it takes me at least 10 tries.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people don't realize. And so that's why I have to put the captions, like the subtitles in there, so that people can follow along with how quickly I'm speaking.
Mm-hmm. So are you like Desi Arnaz from I Love Lucy, where it just in the moment it's all Spanish, and then
when you get me angry or drunk, it's who's that? Kristen Bell. There's this interview where Kristen Bell is talking to Ellen DeGeneres, and she was talking about sloths.
Mm-hmm.
And she was talking about or crying. It was about crying, but it was the episode with the sloth. So she says, on the emotional range, on the scale of 1 to 10, right? If I'm between a 4 and a 7, I'm good. But if I'm between a 1 and a 3 and an 8 and a 10, I'm crying. That's it. I'm just crying. Crying good, crying bad, just crying. Now I forgot why I was talking about that. Oh, so when it comes to my Spanish, it's the same thing. If you get me mad or if you get me drunk, el español va a salir aquí. Vamos a darle en español que se me sale más rápido.
So definitely take you to a Mexican restaurant or taqueria when you're drunk. That way,
I'm not Mexican. A lot of people get that. So that's another thing that I need to make a post
I'm
about.
just saying Spanish in general, that
that
you can at least order at the menu.
Oh, sí.
Yeah, I would say you're definitely very light skinned. So I would say you're definitely on the Spanish side of.
Yeah. I've also avoided the sun a lot. I've been indoors a lot. But you get me out for a week tanning, and I'll come back round and you'll be like, who is that? So of course, at first I'll burn because it's been a while since I've been out in the sun, and I'll be red. But if you have me consistently going to the beach for a week, I'll after the burn, then I'll turn brown. You'll be like, what happened to you? So, oh yeah, she's Latina.
Well, I thank you for doing this. This is awesome.
Thank you, Ryan.
Where can people find you on social media? But as we said, Emily C. White on Instagram. Is there any other places they should?
No, people, you're the second person I think that has told me about the whole podcasting thing. Is that true that you can do a podcast on OnlyFans?
I don't know if we can on OnlyFans. That's something I haven't. I use Podbean, which is a site that pays, and they have their own site, so I can it kind of updates my podcast website.
Gotcha.
And host all my episodes.
Because someone else was, I'm like you were talking about the whole making money, monetizing, and someone was saying you need to get on OnlyFans because right now it's just saturated with nudes. Mm-hmm. So of course you don't go nude, but you do a podcast. So I don't know. Maybe I need to start thinking about follow me on OnlyFans.
Yeah. Well, it's one way. I feel like, OnlyFans has, if people are going to OnlyFans because of, like you said, the reputation, I would assume that that's going to be the audience that you grab. Maybe that's not the audience you want to, but maybe
maybe it is because of the dating.
True. It could be to say, hey guys, here are some inside tips on things you can avoid doing dating wise to have better dates, to not lose people in texting, in the lead up to the date, not even just dating, but here's what to avoid when we've agreed to go out. Here are some things to avoid conversation wise that just literally make me want to say, you know what? Never mind.
Done.
Yeah. It's just because there's that, because once they hear the yes, there's that comfort zone of, okay, she likes me. And they just relax. And sometimes they relax to the point that they feel like they can say things that maybe, kind of sound either possessive or demeaning. They'll make like an inside, nudge joke. And I'm like, that's okay. In certain situations, like if they're okay with that jokes, then that's fine. But if you don't know, don't assume that just because, we're going on a date. Yeah. Maybe we could sleep, maybe, just, say something about sleeping together or something, even jokingly. I'm like, there's things that will now, now you've kind of put this out there that you still want to be treated as a human being at the end of the day. And
yes,
people, I think, sometimes, just get too cozy and feel like they're in, and so they can't, maybe they'll still go out with me. Maybe, and then they realize, oh, this is not, they just don't realize that you can still mess up, and it's okay to mess up. Just apologize and not
and move on. Yeah.
Yeah. That's one thing the girl I'm seeing kind of helped me with, because there have been situations with other comics where boundaries have been crossed, and I've been like, and I'm like, as a guy, I don't know how another guy is showing that they've learned from their mistakes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there was a situation where a comic kind of, I guess, crossed a boundary and then wanted to apologize, and she was upset because they wanted to meet for the apology, and she's like, no, you don't get to meet me. You don't get to after that boundary's crossed.
Right. Yeah.
And I'd never even thought of that. I was like, thinking, okay, well, he's just trying to apologize. And she's like, you just apologize and you move on. You don't come up to me. You don't try. You can't make it better. So stop trying to make it better, because all you're doing is making it worse by trying to keep apologizing and bringing it back up.
Okay. I can see where she's coming from.
And I'm like, yikes. I had never even thought of it that way. I've always thought like, as a person that gets nervous when I upset people, I absolutely want to rectify it. And it's never occurred to me that this is as better as it's going to get for now. You have to just walk away and just basically kind of take the L, because there's so much in a mentality that, ego wise, that they don't want to be the offender. They don't want to, to feel like, you want your conscience clear, but at the same time you want them to, and sometimes there's no middle ground. There's no, you're going to make her, oh, that's what you meant. Oh, totally forgiven. No, you've crossed a boundary. I need you to go away. And I have learned that, that's when they want to be left alone, you leave them alone. You don't offer solutions. You don't try to tell them what they should do, or, you just listen and, let them have their own answers. Yeah. And it's been a very painful process, but I mean, it's something that I wanted to learn. It's like one of those things where I need to know this as somebody that's in the comedy scene, that if I see this happen, how can I tell that person that violated the boundaries making strides to not cross that boundary again. And so I don't basically just because of that incident say they're banned forever because they made one mistake. They made a mistake, and yes, they're paying for it. But how do I let them know that they're making the right steps to hopefully move past it?
Absolutely. Yeah. Everyone's different. You just kind of have to learn what everyone. That's the problem. Is also people need to communicate that with you.
Yeah.
There's those people that will not communicate, and they just expect you to read their mind. So.
I thank you for doing this. I hope.
Yes. You can find me on Instagram, emily.c.white.
All right.
That's it.
Well, yeah. And hopefully you keep your independence and help other people. Maybe that's also something you can address in your podcast is, just to make boundaries with people that you care about, but also that have made mistakes in the past that, that you need to basically save yourself from having those mistakes happen again by keeping a limited
interaction.
Yeah. And just kind of, it can work with dating and can work with, with everybody.
Sorry.
It's all right. But yeah, that could go to, they could just, you don't have to be just about dating. You can be like, hey, women or girls or anybody that feels like they're, feeling like somebody's telling them they have to feel this way. You don't. And here's how you start to make boundaries for yourself that say, it's okay to be independent. It's okay to step away. Don't let them feel like you have to.
I don't know what it is, man. I don't know what it is with these allergies.
Yeah. And just maybe draw boundaries with your allergy medication. I
know. What the heck? It's because it's a 24-hour pill, and I took it last night at around this time. So I think that's why it just disappeared right in the middle of it. No, but I thank you so much for your suggestions. I really need to implement those so that I can finally start monetizing and getting a little extra income so that I will be able to not have to face my fears.
Yeah, and maybe build your audience and stuff. Like I know the girl I'm seeing, she's really likes Tinder Live and I'm Lane Moore. She does I guess Tinder Live where she goes on Tinder and stuff and she posts
that's a thing.
Go look up Lane Lane Moore Oore. But she does she's an introvert kind of person, but she kind of talks about kind of the things that guys have said to her Tinder, and she kind of smart-assly comes up with responses and stuff. So yeah, there's
oh my God, we should be besties.
Yeah, there's Tinder Live and stuff where they just they'll basically post what guys have sent, and it's and they'll just have commentary and stuff. And so yeah, there is a niche a lot of your niche that you're maybe not aware of.
Definitely not aware of. Thank you so much for making me aware of it.
All right. We'll talk to you later.
Okay. Bye.
So that was Emily. That was a very interesting conversation. It's a very valid fear. There's a lot of commercials that are geared towards the fear of you losing your independence. So I totally relate to that, as well as getting older and realizing that time is getting less and less in this world, and just to, have an attitude of gratitude and enjoy life as much as possible. And so, yeah, and I can't imagine being the one that has to depend on somebody, or someone that maybe has hurt you in the past, or that you have a relationship that's on the mend or it's fractured in some way that you're having to work to repair. How do you live in that situation? How do you know that maybe you're not in the same situation you were previous? And so definitely it's something everyone struggles with at some part in their lives. And maybe it's, you don't have to not have children or anything to struggle with that. Even kids or siblings, also you can fall prey to that. Thanks again for everyone that listens. I appreciate you guys. My weekend was awesome with Rob Little. I was able to record my feature sets for what I hope will be a comedy CD in the near future. Travis will take all these recordings and he'll give them a listen, and then we'll go from there. And so it was a fun weekend. I had a great time. Crowds were awesome. We had full rooms all weekend long. It was fantastic. I couldn't ask for a better recording situation. And so thanks to Rob Little for being so gracious, to the Hyena staff for allowing me to do that, and for everybody that came out and supported. That meant the world. If you like what you hear on the podcast, make sure you leave a review wherever you listen to the podcasts. Also, if you have feedback for the show, email me at somefearfans@gmail.com. Next week, I'll be in Hyenas, Dallas with Kevin Farley, the 2 nights there, Friday and Saturday, so come check those shows out. Other than that, next week we'll have another guest. So thanks again for listening to the Sum of All Fears podcast. Have a great week. And now some thank yous for the folks that make this show possible. Thanks to Barry Whitewater for my art and graphics. You can follow him on Instagram at bwhiteh2o. Get it? H2O like water. You can also follow him on Facebook, Music. A huge thank you to Gunnar Olsen for the wonderful music provided for this podcast. You can follow him on Instagram at gunbuns, that's GUNBUNS, as well as his website, gunnarolsen.net. Check out some of the samples that he has recorded. They're amazing. He's an amazing percussionist. If you want to follow the show, we've got a Facebook group, Sum of All Fears. Instagram, Twitter, you can find us at Some Fear Fans. If you have some feedback for the show, email me at somefearfans, SOMEFEARFANS @gmail.com. I'll be happy to take those into consideration. Also, if you'd like to be a guest, email me at somefearfans@gmail.com. We can try to iron out some details and get that settled in. Give us some feedback. If on Apple, Google, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts, leave a review. It makes the show bigger, and it's not going anywhere. I'm going to record as many shows as I possibly can. If you want to follow me on social media, I am at Ryan Perrio. It's RyanPerrio on all social media platforms. You can follow me there, and you can check me out at ryanperrio.com, my website. I'll try to list upcoming shows there as well. It's been kind of spotty because as soon as I set it up, that's when the pandemic happened. And everything's kind of just in a holding pattern. Thanks again for listening to the Sum of All Fears podcast. Next week, we'll have another guest with another fear. Thanks for listening.